Good morning, YouTube. We're back on the farm, and it's the next day because yesterday was way too hot, and after that 8-hour long drive yesterday, both me and Thomas fell asleep, so we didn't get it unloaded last night. But we're gonna get it off the trailer this morning, take it for a quick spin, go get some gasoline in town, and start going through this thing. This little monster's got 1.8 liters of 4-cylinder Fury with a 5-speed, and it shifted pretty well yesterday when we went and took it out. Clutch feels good. It's in my opinion, it's a little underpowered, but it's a Miata. It's not supposed to have 850 horsepower.
You sure?
It's not a demon.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
850 would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. In this light of a car, 850 horsepower will get you killed. But yeah, you're right. It would be a lot of fun. So now we're going to go and try to drop this thing off the trailer, and after we get back, we're going to get a clipboard and start making a list. As you might imagine, Thomas has some plans for this car, and he's going to be doing a lot of modifications. So let's get to work. On this trailer, there is no graceful way to get in and out of this car because the door only opens so much. So I'm going to try to get in here without hurting myself. Yeah, it's a little car. Got 160,891 on the odometer. Put it in neutral. Leave the parking brake on. Push in the clutch. And it starts right up. Oil pressure is just above the mid-range. Of course, it's cold.
Is it ticking?
No, not really.
I don't hear the tick.
But, okay. So we're going to try to get it off the trailer for the first time here at home. Well, you ready to go into town and get some gas?
Sure.
See, I just put my foot on the brake, and that's not the brake.
You want me to go get tennis shoes on?
Yeah, one of the things you're going to have to remember about this car is wide feet is not a good thing, because you can step on the brake and the gas at the same time, just like this. I put my foot on the brake. You don't drive this with boots on. So yeah, if I were you, I would go grab some tennis shoes and let's go to town real quick before it gets hot.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to take a ride for the first time in the Miata, and I'm going to explain to Thomas a bunch of things about how to operate this vehicle. Now, the first thing you're going to learn real quick is you're going to have to run this seat all the way back in order to get in and out. I have to run it forward because I got short little legs, so I can reach the clutch. Now, always, always, always set the parking brake when you get in and out of this thing. You want it all the way up as far as it'll go, so when you get out of the car, it doesn't roll anywhere, whether or not it's in gear or not. I always leave it in gear when I get out. That way, you've got two things to keep the car from rolling when it's off. So, we're in here. We've got the seat set where it needs to be. We've got the parking brake all the way up. You have to go and push down on the clutch. Well, I need to go just another bump forward. You got to push the clutch all the way down, pull it in neutral, and you got to flip the gear shift back and forth. Now, well, I've got the clutch all the way down, my foot on the brake. I release the emergency brake. I'm going to go and put it in first gear and just get just a little bit of gas, just a little bit, and slowly let the clutch out. Anytime you want to stop like that, you have to use the clutch and then the brake. First gear, clutch in. Second gear, clutch out. Clutch in, clutch out. Now we're in third gear. We're at 2,000 RPM at about 20 miles an hour. Now that we're on pavement, I'm going to drop it down one gear. That's all the way to the floor. 5,000 RPM, shift to third. Now we're at 2,200 RPM at 42 mile an hour. Not the fastest car in the world, but it's got some zip. There we go. Now the fog is disappearing from the windshield. Now we're coming up to a stop sign, clutch in, pull it out in neutral, flip it back and forth to make sure it's in neutral, and you use your brakes to stop. Now I'm at a complete stop, turn signal on, down into first gear, and slowly let the clutch out. You got to give it just a little bit of gas to engage the clutch, but it doesn't take much. There's 4,000 RPM into second. One of the reasons why I like to have a loud exhaust is so that I can hear what the engine in the car is doing, and that's especially important with a manual transmission, because after a while, and you'll figure this out, after a while you won't even look at the tachometer. How fast you're going, how you hear the engine whine, that will tell you what gear you need to be in and what you need to do with the transmission. And it takes some practice, but after a little while, you won't even be looking at the tachometer to see how fast the engine is going, because you'll know where the shift points are just by how fast you're going and what the car sounds like and what the engine sounds like.
Right.
And if you put a quiet exhaust on a car like this, you miss out on that completely. So having not necessarily a loud exhaust, but having an exhaust that you can actually hear makes a big difference.
Right.
Because your eyes ought to be on the road rather than looking at your tachometer.
Right.
Well, that's not too bad. That little bump in the road that always scrapes on the Dodge.
Yeah, you won't want to go any faster than, oh, to be fair, you go faster than 25.
Yeah. Well, this road is about a 30-mile-an-hour road anyway, even though people try flying down it at 45 and 50. It's not comfortable at 45 or 50. You're physically having to drive rather than just riding along. But that's country roads for you. I don't hear a lot of squeaks and rattles, which is a good thing.
Right.
We don't want to live, squeaks and rattles usually mean something is too tight, not tight enough, or binding against something. I don't hear that. And like we did on the test drive, clutch in, down to second, and usually like on a stop sign or something, you don't ever want to downshift into first.
Downshifting into first is just too far. Now I'm in first, clutch in, give it a little goose. Here we go.
Third gear at 4,000, 40 mile an hour, 4,000 into fourth gear, we're doing 50 mile an hour. And into fifth gear, still doing 50 miles an hour.
And if I lose my hat, you're gonna go back and get it.
Okay.
This is fun. I keep wanting to reach over for another gear, but you only got 5. I hope my hat doesn't fly off. I should have worn my other hat. But it's not bad. The wind goes right over my head because I'm so short. Oh, dead possum in the middle of the road. I hate to see a dead possum in the middle of the road.
Kind of scary how close this car is to the ground.
Yep, your butt is definitely closer to the ground than in your crown vent. And when you're doing 60 miles an hour in this car, it feels like you're going faster because your butt is just a few inches off the ground.
That's all the way to the floor. Woohoo! 65 mile an hour. Feels like we're going really fast.
Yeah.
This transmission is shifting really nice. You haven't heard me grind a gear yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
That's a good thing. That means all the synchronizers in the transmission are still intact. Synchronizers will synchronize the speed of the different gears and go into gear easy. Clutch in, down into neutral. Come to a complete stop. Oil pressure's good, my temperature's good. Let the clutch out a little bit. Clutch in, second, clutch out. No grind. That's a good thing. Hold the camera steady.
Yeah, my hand's going to sleep.
Yeah. That's why I like these. I'm in third gear, doing about 25 miles an hour through the middle of downtown Chapel Hill. That guy in the Gator is going probably about as fast as he can. Okay, let's go get some gasoline.
You got him. Old bird got himself a lizard.
Down into first gear. It doesn't like to downshift into first when you're in motion, by the way.
Okay.
Alright, so we need to figure out where
I'm
the button is.
in neutral, the clutch in, pull up the parking brake, double check you're in neutral, and then release the clutch. Then you can shut it off. And now we have to figure out how we can get the gas door open. Okay, one here's for the hood, or the trunk, the other one's for the fuel door.
Yep, it popped up.
Where are we at? Bolero? No, Sunoco. Okay, as I told you last night, I wouldn't put anything other than 93 octane in here. I don't care what the manual says, it'll keep it cleaner, and it's just a better fuel for a little engine like this, I think. So let's get some fuel. Yeah, let's see how much gas it takes. Got supposedly a half a tank.
It's 12 gallons is how big it is.
Okay.
So you should be putting 6. .94 gallons. That's pretty close to 6. There we go. All right, let's go for a little ride.
Okay, let's go over the starting procedure again. The parking brake is on. We are in neutral. Foot down on the, I have to bump up again. Foot down on the clutch, then you start it. Foot still down on the clutch. Foot on the brake, and I'm gonna release the emergency brake. In first gear, since we're on flat, let's see how it does with no fuel, or no gas pedal. Oh, cool. You let it out nice and slow and it takes off, it doesn't even lug. Now I notice that the fuel gauge does not show all the way full, it's just a little off of full.
Notice how it's quiet, but you can still barely hear the exhaust. I'd like to hear just a little bit more exhaust.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, since we've never had this thing up to 70 miles an hour.
Let's go down to the turn.
Yeah. Fifth gear, 50 mile an hour at 2,800 RPM. 55 at just shy of 3,000 RPM. Somebody lost a big chunk of glass. Somebody ran over a skunk. Okay, that's 70 miles an hour. Oh, the other thing too is you have no cruise control.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay.
Yeah, this is nice and stable at 70. I mean, I don't have my hands on the steering wheel at all, and there's no shake and wobble. Here's 75 miles an hour. Not bad at all. Clutch in, down to fourth gear, a little bit of brake, clutch in, down into third gear with a lot of brake, and we're 20 mile an hour, drop into second.
All the way to the floor. Not bad.
Zoom.
Yeah, zoom zoom. That's why Mazda had that advertising slogan, zoom zoom.
It was a good slogan for them because their little cars are zippy. Mile an hour on a back road.
And that is the speed limit.
Yep.
Just for anyone who's watching who's a cop, that is the speed limit.
Now, one thing you do have to remember with this car, with your Crown Vic, if a deer jumps out in front of you, hit it. If a deer jumps out in front of you in this, yeah, all bets are off.
Yeah.
The deer is liable to win. The bad thing about it is if you hit them in the legs, the body will come up on the hood, and the whole carcass will come right up into the windshield. fourth gear, coming up to the stop sign, I'm gonna push in the clutch, drop it down into third, have to rev it a little bit so it evens up, meshes. I'll drop it into second. And like I said, you don't want to downshift into first until you come to a complete stop. Now I'm in first, let out the clutch.
Now I'm in second gear, 20 mile an hour, 30 mile an hour, 4,000 RPM, dropping into third. Fourth gear.
Now, it has been decades since I have done a manual transmission. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once you learn it and it becomes a muscle memory habit,
You have it.
you'll have it. It won't be perfect because Lord knows my shifts are not being perfect, but I'm still getting used to the clutch. And don't feel bad if you stall it out a few times. Learning how to do that, it's just part of the process. The hardest thing to remember is when you're getting off of a highway, you're coming up to a stop sign, the hardest part is remembering when to put in the clutch and how to downshift.
Right.
Upshifting is easy. Downshifting is a little more difficult. Now the fuel gauge reads totally full. I guess we had to go and wiggle it around a little bit.
Yeah. When I make the turn and drop below 20 miles an hour, I'll drop it in second. See how smooth that was? Yeah. Yeah.
Around town, you'll be in second and third, second and third, second and third all the time. The only time you're going to be using first gear is when you're taking off from a stop sign or a stoplight. First gear is not something that you would normally downshift into while you're moving.
Right.
First gear is just kind of to get you moving. And you'll figure out pretty quick when you're being spirited. In other words, when you're trying to boogie.
Yeah.
First gear goes really quick. Because first gear is just meant to get you rolling. Okay, now I hear something squeaking in the back.
Yeah.
I think that's the jack and stuff that we loosened up yesterday when we were poking around looking.
Let's hope.
Now, one of the things that you need to do is pull the seats, pull the carpets, clean out the trunk, pull out all the carpeting and
Yeah,
stuff
I was
in
already
there.
planning on doing that.
And that big shop vac that's on the back porch of the main house will be your best friend.
Uh-huh.
And I think we're going to have to move Mom's Porsche
Yeah.
out of the barn so that we've got someplace to do a little bit of work to this thing.
it again.
Punch the button.
Yes.
Punch the button.
The entire reason why I got the car.
Because you like the pop-up headlights. Huh?
Yes, I want the pop-up headlights.
I can't blame you. They're kind of cute. But you do realize that's just one more thing to go wrong, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, second gear, less than 20 miles an hour. Make the turn. Head for home. Clutch in, go to third. Clutch in, go to fourth. Now this is too slow for fifth, but I can drop it in fifth. That's all the way to the floor. See how little acceleration you have in high gear?
Yeah.
Hello, moo cow. I don't think you're supposed to be there, buddy. Third gear.
Ooh. Ooh.
That's a difference, isn't it?
I don't like that. Slowest car I've ever been in, so.
Small little sports cars are not gravel road friendly, really.
Now I'm going to drop it in first. See, we're idling at less than 5 miles an hour. So, do you have your tennis shoes on?
I do.
You want to give it a shot?
Yeah, sure. On the next installment. It'll be its own video.
Clutch in, neutral, emergency brake.
What does that button do?
This,
On the e-brake, yeah.
you push down the button that's on the end, and it releases it.
Okay.
So, you want to give it a try?
Yes.
Okay. The next installment is Thomas tries not to make an ass of himself as he tries a manual transmission for the first time in his entire life. This should be fun. Come back and see us. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Come on back and we'll have some more fun with the Miata. Okay, now put it into first gear. There you go.
Damn it.
You stalled it out for the first time. Put your clutch in. Put it in neutral. Start it. Now take the emergency brake off with your foot on the brake.
On the brake?
The clutch and the brake.